Welcome in, you guys. We got One Piece, chapter 1118. My name is Sai, and today we're here to go over the latest spoilers and just talk a little bit about them. So with that being said, let's get to it. So the first thing we have this week to kick things off is the title of the chapter, 1118, I Am Free. And the first bullet point, it says that the giant robot sinks into the sea following Warcuty's attack. Yo. Last chapter, we were all debating, is the robot going to get back up? Is he going to do more things? And, by the end of the spoiler list, it does look like he will do something next chapter. But he doesn't start strong, right? He starts by sinking into the sea. Brother, last week, I thought that the robot, after getting knocked back by Warcuty, I thought he landed on solid ground. But reading this bullet point, I went back to last chapter, and if you look closely, it does look like he lands in the ocean. I mean, granted, he lands on a couple of battleships and I think some debris. But yeah, you could see the waves there. And it's like, brother, what is going on with this robot? One attack and he's essentially done? Are you kidding me? That's crazy, dude. I don't know. See, and the thing is, I think the most blasphemous part about the robot sinking into the sea from Warcuty's attack is that it was a no-named attack. It wasn't even an attack. Warcuty just bumped into him. It's crazy. It's actually insane that the robot seemingly went down so easily. But of course, like I said, the robot, he still has hope by the end of this chapter. So the next bullet point, it looks like we get more reaction piece. Hopefully we get a Don Krieg or Damar Black this chapter. But right now, all we know about are Leo and Rebecca. But it does say we catch glimpses of more characters, so I'm assuming we're going to get more people than this. But yeah, we get Leo and Rebecca yet again. I think this is their third appearance in Reaction Piece, and I do wonder if they will add any insightful dialogue here. I feel like they might be able to, considering, Leo and the Tontara tribe, they had connections dating all the way back to the Void Century, so hopefully they bring us something, but who really knows, right? Reaction Piece has been kind of hit or miss with some of the characters. Some characters bring us insightful dialogue. Some other people just hit us with a ... and they're like, whoa, what happened here, guys? You know what I mean? So, hopefully we get something of substance with Leo and Rebecca showing back up for the third time. So the next bullet point, though, says the 5 elders, their next targets are Atlas and Lilith. So they set out to cap. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. This bullet point to me is so funny because it doesn't feel like the Gorosei were macroing efficiently, right? Because 4 out of the 5 Gorosei came down here to fight the ancient robot, and only 1 of them was needed. It's like, dude, Marcus Mars was flying above the clouds. He was near Lilith. Oh my god, Saturn actually fought Lilith for a minute. These guys, they could have been doing their jobs all along, but they all came down here to watch the robot get beat down. And hey, maybe they thought the robot would put up more of a fight, but like I said, the robot was just... he's something. So yes, it looks like they are focusing on taking down the rest of the satellites minus York, which is pretty cool to see, right? You can't have them surviving, you can't have them spilling the beans or recreating the Mother Flame or finishing Vegapunk's message on his behalf. I feel like this is tying up loose ends for them. And now I'm kind of curious if they're going to rope Kizaru back into the mix. I know that's a name we haven't heard in a while, but Kizaru... last we saw, he was on a Marine battleship. He was a little bit wounded, but the wounds were truly just in his heart. But now that the message is over, will he have the gall to come back into the mix and finish off Vegapunk once and for all? Well, the satellites of Vegapunk. I'm kind of curious about that because right now, like the elders coming in, I don't think they're going to be that successful. Maybe I'm just a little bit too optimistic, but thinking about Atlas for a minute, right? Frankie, Sanji, the Giants, Luffy, Dory, Berg, like they're all in that area. And then you go up to Lilith, and then Lilith is like, okay, we got Zoro, we got Jinbei, Nami, Brook, Usopp, Chopper, Robin. Like there's so many characters around Atlas and Lilith to the point where I don't believe it's going to be that easy for the Gorosei to simply kill them. But then again, who knows? Anything is possible here. So the next bullet point, though, says that Mars attacks the Mars! Yes! Mars attacks the Elbaf ship, and the Giants struggle to defend it. Yes. Hey, when it comes to Mars's matchup, time and time again, man, I've been putting Sanji in front of this man, right? I see the bird. I'm like, yo, Sanji, he can skywalk. I think this would be a perfect opponent for Sanji. You know, Zoro has his matchup right now. I think we could get a mix here. It could even be a 2v1, right? Because Zoro and Jinbei are going against Venus. Maybe we get Sanji and Frankie? Sanji and Bonney, maybe? You know, I feel like a 2v1 is pretty necessary for the Gorosei if you're not Luffy. So yeah, that sounds pretty cool here. I wonder if Luffy is back on the ship. So now it says, at the end of the chapter, though, Bonney uses her powers to transform into her full Nika form. All right. Yep. See, this is something I think we've all been talking about. We were waiting for this to happen. And here it is, guys. You know, call me a madman, but I always believed that Bonney would be able to tap into a full Gear 5th form. It was obvious, right? She could go Gear 3rd. She could use the stretching ability. She became a full-blown Buccaneer. Like, her becoming Sun God Nika, it was laid in the stars, man, you know? Like, even just going back to when Bonney was fighting Saturn. Saturn said, hey, Bonney, your powers are waning. It's waning because you don't believe in Sun God Nika. And it's like, dude, the minute she sees the real Sun God Nika being Luffy, she's gonna get a massive power boost, you know? Like, it was just always there. It made a lot of sense. And the reason I am so adamant about, not adamant, but like the reason I'm pushing this so hard right now is because it was obvious. It was so obvious. And people were saying that it's not possible. They're like, oh, you know, the minute she finds out that Nika is a thing, she's not gonna be able to do it anymore because that future is cut off. Like, no, that's not how the powers work. They're literally saying the exact opposite. The powers are tied to her imagination and her belief. Now that she has Luffy here, you know, the shining star showing her how to do things, yeah, she can go full Gear 5th. You know, it's just a matter of her, not stamina, like her capabilities now. You know, it's all up to her. But as far as the Devil Fruit goes, this was established like 20 chapters ago, man. But yeah, it's finally paid off. We see her in full Nika form, and it's about to get loony up in here, right? Luffy going Gear 5th is one thing, but having Bonney here now? Oh, man. I feel bad for these Gorosei, dude. Like, the thing is that I like to imagine what it would be like to fight somebody like Luffy. Shattering the fourth wall, turning my attacks into, you know, jokes and gags, laughing at me. Oh, it would be awful. So the fact that there's another monster like that on the battlefield, come on. Yeah, come on. Yeah, Bonney, outside of Law and Kid, of course, and Luffy and Zoro, I think she would be who I would rank like the 5th strongest supernova by far. Yeah, Bonney. Dude, Bonney? Tapping into Sun God Nika mode as a supernova? That's crazy. Yeah. Bonney stocks are up. And like I said, I've been slacking on the video, but I will eventually make a Bonney for Nakama theory, not theory, but like a hit piece. Funny enough, this is the thumbnail right here. So, you know, like I said, I believed in Bonney Sun God Nika for a long time now. I've been sitting on this one for months and months now. But yeah, guys, we finally got it. Sun God Nika Luffy and Sun God Nika Bonney on the battlefield. So now, the next bullet point, and I think the last one, oh wait, no, there are some additional bullet points after this, but this one says, the giant robot senses Nika and exclaims, it's here. Yeah, see, this is why I said the robot has potential still, right? I saw this bullet point and I saw people kind of memeing about this one, and I do believe, like I said, I don't mind making fun of the robot, but I do think it will play a role. You know, like, we can laugh at it today, we can hype it up tomorrow. That's always been my mindset, whether it's the VAs, whether it's, you know, the Gorosei. That's just how I am. I go with the flow. And the flow, as dictated by this final bullet point, is whispering to me that come next chapter, the robot will rise out of the ocean and help Bonney and Luffy. But will it, though? Like, I don't know. Like, it's weird when you think about the robot too, because there is a chance that if the robot comes back into action, that the message will also come back with him, right? We're not too sure how the snail has been implemented within him. Is the robot the snail? Is there an actual snail inside the suit of armor? Now that he senses that Sun God Nikas are here, will he fight the Gorosei now? Because, you know, last chapter, that was the problem. Last chapter, the robot didn't even acknowledge the Gorosei. The robot was walking one direction, and the Gorosei were just, like, bullying him on the side. Like, the robot didn't know what the hell was going on. So maybe this time around, the robot will look a lot better because he's actually here for a fight. I think that could be a possibility. But one thing that just gets me going, not gets me going, but you know, lack of a better word, I just woke up. One thing I'm kind of curious about is why does it react to Bonney and not Luffy? Because Luffy's been Gear 5th for a while now. Like, Luffy turning into Gear 5th is the reason why the robot woke up in the first place. Luffy was Gear 5th bouncing around, you know, fighting Warkity left and right, and the robot never once said, oh, Nika's here. You know what I mean? Like, did it take Bonney for him to wake up, or is there something else that woke the robot up? I don't really know for sure yet, but let me look. There are additional spoiler points as well. All right, so the extra spoiler point says that Luffy transformed into his Nika form, which is what triggered Bonney to transform to. Okay, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, right? Because when Luffy was fighting Saturn a long time ago and he was using his Dawn Gatling, Luffy said, hey, Bonney, this is how it's done, right? He was showing Bonney the one-to-one version of it. So yeah, I'm assuming Bonney might even use a Dawn Gatling. I think Bonnie's gonna copy all of Luffy's attacks, and I love that. You know, for me, that is a solid point as to why Bonney should become the next Nakama, right? When you think back to all these great pirate groups, like the Roger Pirates, for example, Roger had a protege in Shanks. Shanks went on, and not only does Shanks' sword look like Roger's sword, but they both use Kamusari. You know, they both use Divine Departure. Luffy, he needs a protege, man. If he's gonna be king of the pirates, he needs not a number 2, but he needs somebody to come up after him and use his abilities. And what better character than Bonney? You know, the proverbial 12-year-old who also has Sun God Nika abilities. I think that is beautiful. I think it's perfect. And yes, Bonney in Sun God Nika mode, I absolutely love it. Another reason I love it as well is because if Bonney masters her devil fruit or her powers or awakens, there's a chance she could turn everyone into Sun God Nika, right? You got to remember, she can touch people, age them up or down. It only takes an extra step to turn them into a different timeline as well. It's possible. It is very, very possible, and that's how far I want to take it. So now the final bullet point says, before that, Vegapunk's broadcast goes back online for a second and says, that name is, so that name is. So, okay. So going back to last week, Vegapunk said, among you, there is a blank, and then he goes on and says, the name is. So I think the theory that Vegapunk was going to say, like, oh, you know, there's a traitor among you, and that name is blank, I think that does have more credence this time around. Yeah, I think I like the traitor train more and more. I don't know who started that one. I think that just came up in like basic conversation, but yeah, like the whole like, hey, there's a traitor theory looking pretty solid, because like we have to remember, everything we have today is a repeat of the past and vice versa. So the fact that out of all of the Vegapunk satellites, there's a traitor, it could be the same thing for the D-Clan. Maybe there's one bad D-Clan member out there in the world. Who would it be? You know, if I had to guess, you know, if you were to put a list of D-Clan members in front of me with, you know, Vivi, we got Luffy, Dragon, Garp, you know, put all the D-Clan members in front of me. Brother, I think it's Blackbeard. You know, like, if he's not going to say Joy Boy, and he's like, hey, there's a bad guy amongst the D-Clan, I think it's Marshall D. Teach. I think it is. I mean, hell, even just going back to Marineford, Whitebeard literally looked at Blackbeard, remembered that he was a member of the D-Clan, and he said, hey, Blackbeard, Roger is not waiting for you. You are the one guy that Roger is not waiting for. So yeah, I think they are going to drop some Blackbeard stuff here, and I think it would coincide perfectly with Van Augur and Devon's appearance as well, right? Because Saturn was like, hey, you know, Blackbeard, you know, he's a special guy, and then they're like, yep, special race or special tribe or whatever. So I think this will give us another hint as to what Blackbeard truly is. And yeah, if he's a special D-Clan member, if he's a traitor, or if he's the bad apple out of the bunch, I think that would make a lot of sense. But yeah, going off of this final bullet point, we don't really have context as to whether or not the message will continue next chapter. But I think there's a good chance, you know, the robot's getting back up. The robot, it's excited that Bonney and Luffy are down Gear 5th. So, you know, maybe he does something crazy. I don't know, man. But with that being said, let me know what you guys think about this chapter down below. I thought it was awesome. Like, there's not a bullet point I dislike, except for Leo and Rebecca. I'm not the biggest Leo and Rebecca fan. I mean, same with the Iron Giant, man. But like I said, I see the potential of the Iron Giant. Still not my favorite, you know, still not my favorite showing thus far, but things can change. You know, opinions can change as we get more chapters. So maybe come 11-19, the robot's gonna be my top one or something. I don't know. But hey, again, thank you guys so much for stopping by. Let me know what was your favorite part about the chapter. Did you like the fact that Bonney turned Gear 5th? Did it surprise you? How do you feel about Mars attacking the giant ship? Who do you think is going to stop him? Do you think it's going to be Sanji, Bonney, or maybe even Luffy, now that he should be nearby? But granted, you know, it's not just Mars, right? They list Mars here, but we got to remember all the Gorosei are going to fight the Straw Hats. And mind you, it doesn't just have to be the Gorosei, right? We still have the VAs nearby, Dolls here, Bluegrass, Urban, Hound. You know, all these high-tier characters are still nearby. And we also have the Seraphim as well. We don't know where they're at exactly. Last we saw, the Cyberpol agents and the Seraphim fell in the middle of the island. Jupiter came up and he started sucking the agents inside of him. We don't know if he did the same for the Seraphim, but if he did, then there's a chance that they could come back into action pretty soon. So yeah, that could be pretty cool. And who knows, maybe the robot just stalls all of them while we escape. I think that would be a nice showing. But hey, with that being said, thank you guys so much for stopping by. I really freaking appreciate it. And I'll catch you guys on the next spoiler drop. My name is Sai, and I am signing out. Peace.